So I finished my last build, so I'm looking up down my rack to see what I want to build next. I don't have masks for these because I'm too broke, and these things are like 2 times as old as I am. I don't really want to build a TACOM kit that's going to take me 3 weeks to just build, and green is boring, and these are all green. These things all need photo etch, and again, I'm broke, and my hobby cabinet that just has all the unfinished builds, well, I'm too lazy for that, so let's build a Paperpanzer. Also, I want to share the fact that I got a new air compressor, which is super nice because I've been using this thing from the early 90s that overheats so much that I had to like nail a fan to it so it didn't smell like a burning battery. So yeah, good for me. So for this Paperpanzer, we're going to be using a Panzer II that I built completely just disturbingly bad. Plus some parts and a Panzer IV gun that I found. Also, I'd like to really make sure you guys understand that the keyword for this build is ghetto. So first we have to sand off all the surface detail just so we can put on these new parts that I built. By the way, I used poster paper. So I wasn't kidding when I said ghetto. Also, the fact that I'm using putty to stick this all together should give you guys an indication of just how nonchalant I was about this. But I was hoping it would still end up looking good. But after that, I then started adding all the pieces that would start making it looking like a tank. And I think I actually did a pretty good job using my extra parts bin and using pieces that were actually relevant to a Panzer. So yeah, building was really quick, so we're going to be moving into painting. I'll be using some Mission Models red oxide over a black base. And remember, this is kind of ghetto, but I'm going to be using some isopropyl alcohol, which actually works really well with acrylics. It can get a little bit touchy with the mixtures, but if you guys can't afford or find or get Tamiya thinner in the mail fast enough, using isopropyl alcohol does work. So from all my experience with the Mission Model paints, it's going to take quite a few coats to get on a solid layer. I promise it's not because I'm using alcohol. I've used other thinners in the past, but I still get the same result with needing multiple layers. So just watch out for that when you're using Mission Models paints. Alright, so now we're going to be using some Tamiya XF60 to make the camouflage pattern. This pattern is really similar to the one on my Tiger mashup that I did. That's kind of like the standard Paperpanzer camo that I go for. It's super easy and I think it looks pretty good with the red and the yellow. But for markings, we're going to be going very simple, just using a single stencil, the 01 there. Of course, stencils are very easy to use. You just put them on and mask it. And it ends up looking great because you're actually painting on numerals or markings, which makes it, by the way, extremely easy once it gets to the weathering process, especially if you're going to be using oils and pigments, because what tends to happen if you use decals is the pigments will, of course, build up by the film, which doesn't exactly give the desired look. So stencils is the way to go. I think I have an entire box full of them, and they've been super easy. I think I'm going to try using some stencils on the next aircraft build I do, because I think that will also look really good from my experience here. But yeah. Okay, so honestly, I completely hate wheels, and I'm pretty sure that's what everyone feels towards these. But yeah, I just simply went through it and painted the edges black to simulate rubber. Super simple, but I hate it. Okay, so now we're going to start weathering by some light chipping and then adding a filter using some XF57 buff, just mixed with some water over the entire thing. A note is when you are applying just a filter like this, make sure you bubble it as you apply it. Just when you move your brush, make sure there's bubbles, because then it'll actually stick instead of starting to pool, which will act more like a wash than a filter. But the filter is basically, as you can see, bringing all the colors together and just blending them kind of a little bit and then making them less bright. Alright, now using some plywood planks, we're going to be building kind of a deck for this tripod with a machine gun on it. I'm thinking of just doing this, adding a little bit of detail and, I don't know, something to look at on the back of this vehicle instead of just making it like a very ugly, simple Brumbar looking thing. But I'm basically just going to cut the wood and then give it a wash using this. And it's actually going to end up looking pretty much like wood. But after that, I'm just going to add a slight wash of buff to it, and that's just going to bring out some highlights and tone down the color, and then we have some wood planks. So as ghetto as we've made this, I'm going to be using super glue, which, by the way, if you're as dumb as me, don't do, because that's going to end up leaving some glue marks, and that's something you hate. But it ended up looking really good after some touch-ups, and I'm pretty satisfied. But now it's time to move into washes. So I'm just applying washes in the recessed areas such as the hatches and all other places that would collect oil, dust, and also brings out texture, especially on the road wheels, the running gear, and every other part of the vehicle that has recessed parts. Okay, so now we're going to be adding some silver to the teeth of this drive sprocket because the running gear would knock off all the paint on these teeth, so that's going to leave a silver color. It took a little bit of time, but it's always a nice detail to add, and it always looks really good. But yeah, so now we're just going to be adding on all the wheels, and then we're going to be spraying a slight mist of buff, just again to tie things together, adding the running gear down there. It's also going to add a dust effect to it, as you can see there, and kind of just make it a lot more toned down where dust and dirt would be around the running gear. But now we get into the tracks. When I made this kit, I did not understand how to put together rubber tracks. I know rubber band tracks suck, but I destroyed these. You can see there where I was supposed to put them together. I literally just melted them together over a candle. It looks horrible, but that's okay. Someday I will find other tracks to use and I will paint them up and put them on. But I'll just be spraying a black base coat and then just adding a very simple wash and not putting a lot of time into these because, again, hopefully someday I can find new ones. Okay, so we're going to be putting on the tracks later, but now it's time to add all the small detail parts that wouldn't be painted the same color as the vehicle, including a bow-mounted machine gun where I'm basically just sticking the barrel of an MG42 into the hole in the hull. Again, this thing is ghetto, but this tripod I just painted off with some dark yellow, then added the machine gun. But now I'm just going to be adding some small details, again, with weathering, such as the exhaust, and then, of course, putting the tripod on. I think it looks good, and it adds a little bit of detail to it all. But right there, because I forgot about those holes, I'm just going to be adding this grenade box, which I think was a pretty clever, maybe and simple way of hiding those. But yeah, we're just going to finish off the tripod with a little bit of a wash just to make it look better because it just looked way too clean to be on the back of a vehicle that looked the way it did. But I wanted to add some more things to the back because I thought it just felt a little bit empty. So I'm just going to be adding this oil barrel as because from what I thought, in 1946 when this vehicle had supposedly been used, they're out of fuel, so they're just trying to conserve it and try to keep as much fuel as they can. I did not understand how I was going to put this thing on. I experimented with having kind of like a rope tied to it, but I don't know, there was no possible way that a rope could have been on there. So I just added planks to the side and had the barrel sit on against it. Okay, and here it's looking with pretty much everything completed and assembled. I think it looks pretty good and kind of nice. I added a little bit of pigments just to the barrel just to make it look a little bit more dirty. But now we're just going to be finishing off the actual building with just adding the, again, horrible tracks. And yeah, kind of ties it all together and I think it looks kind of cool. A little bit like a brum bar. But now we're just going to be adding a little bit of oils because I kind of forgot to do it earlier. I'm just going to be dappling it around areas that would get muddy and dirty, such as the running gear and all the places that are below. And I'm just using a toothpick just to kind of grind them in and spread them around. I didn't use any thinner and it ended up looking pretty good, just adding a little bit of color modulation to the yellow and the red. So I am pretty satisfied with that. Okay, so now I'm just going to finish it off by putting on a spray can dull coat. But yeah, this is it. I think it looks great. I really do actually like how it turned out. I was kind of skeptical at the start, but it's now joined the ranks of my other two Paperpanzers. Now I have 3. Kind of cool with the size comparison, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.